Hey everyone, this is the ultimate top list archive. This will detail every list we plan to make, though if the ones aren't on here, it means that we haven't really thought about it yet and we haven't really got an idea of it yet. So there may be top lists that may come out of the blue, and this is just because we came up with the idea and we didn't include it in this list. Anyway, enough of that, let's get on with it. Also, if you want to get involved, tell me what your favourite list out of this archive is, and if you really want to help us out, you could probably suggest a few entries for these lists. That could also help very much. Thank you very much. Aggravating announcers in games. Pretty straightforward. We're talking about a very, very annoying announcer in a video game, and straight off the bat we can think of one right now, and you're thinking of DJ Atomica from Burnout 3. Or the one picture just here, the announcer from Team Fortress 2. She's called the Administrator. She can be really irritating sometimes. And yeah, this is this list. Alien game characters. Okay, so right off the bat we don't know yet whether we're going to change this title to Alien Protagonists in Games or Alien NPCs in Games, because alien game characters could theoretically be both of those things, and we could have a huge list. So this particular list may be changed to either protagonists or NPCs. And as you can tell there, we have the Arbiter from Halo 3 and a Solarian from Mass Effect 2. Ancient Books of Wisdom and Power. Believe it or not, most of this on this list is real, including the Grand Grimoire, which is basically the Gospel of Satan, and it's actually locked away in the Vatican archives, which no one else can see. Ancient Rituals that Summon Demons and Ghosts. Now this list is going to be very similar to the ritual creepypastas. Now there was apparently different sentences, phrases, rituals that actually summoned the so-called demons and ghosts. The unnerving fact about it is that where I live, in the attic, we actually did find very strange scribbled bits of paper of random phrases about summoning like spirits, which we never attempted to read. But you know, this list is going to be dangerous, so I wouldn't attempt it if you tried it, and interesting at the same time. Annoying employees in retail. Now, remember the annoying customers? Well, yes, this is going to be exactly like that, except from the customer perspective point of view, seeing how annoying some of the employee staff are. Now, we may introduce some other parts saying what employees hate about other employees, because I'm sure we all had them. So that may also be included in this video, so it's all going to be 3D animated. Annoying game enemies. Pretty self-explanatory really. A really annoying enemy in a video game really gives you a headache, and that's that list. Again, much like the annoying customers and annoying employees in retail, annoying people in the cinema is pretty much the same sort of thing. 3D animated, and it's going to be talking about the most annoying people you get in a cinema. So these are the people that will be talking on their phone, talking really loudly, or like kids in a cinema. So yeah. Annoying online players in games. Now this is the sequel, an improved version of the old video we did called Idiots in Online Games back in 2011. Instead of just showing gameplay footage like we did last time, we'll be animating it in 3D just to show and get down to the points of what really is annoying about these online players. Annoying things about air travel. Again, similar to the annoying customers, annoying employees, and annoying people in a cinema, annoying things about air travel is going to feature a similar thing in 3D animation, and it's going to show the most annoying things about air travel, such as small seats, airline food, and kids. Antagonist to pity in games. What this list entails is a antagonist or enemy villain in the game that you think is a bad guy, but then realise that he really isn't a bad guy. You know, you really feel sorry for the person. And this is that list. Anthropomorphic game characters. Now again, we may be changing this list because game characters represents a whole host of different things, including NPCs and protagonists. So what we may do is change it to Anthropomorphic Protagonists in Games, or Anthropomorphic NPCs in Games. If you don't know what anthropomorphic means, it means an animal with human characteristics. Ask a character a question series. Yeah, we're doing more of these. This is just a taster of some of the ones that we have planned, though we are thinking of doing some more. This is just some of the ones we have in mind at the moment. We'll have a huge list in the future of loads of different characters. Assault rifles in games. Pretty self-explanatory really. We're looking for really high-powered assault rifles, could be iconic assault rifles as well, or unique assault rifles. Anyway, this is the list. Axes in games. Again, this list will feature anything from powerful battle axes to single-handed standard axes. And we're just looking for the best ones, the unique ones, or the most iconic ones. Best camera effects in games. Now what we're referring to here is a way that the player feels much more immersed. So this could be from rain hitting onto the camera lens, making droplets form. It could be sunlight blinding the player and not seeing where they're going. Take for example Battlefield 3, that had that. In terms of Mirror's Edge is very good with that sort of camera effect thing. This is that list, something to make the game feel more immersive in terms of how the player plays it. Best card crashes in games. Pretty simple this one. We're looking for a game which features some of the best card crashes imaginable. Straight off the bat, think of one, Burnout. Everyone knows that game. But we're thinking of other games too, as well as Burnout, that makes it feel the most realistic. Best fire effects in games. Now this list, we're looking for the best fire effects. Flames, burning, furnaces, that sort of thing. There is quite a lot of games that have really good fire effects, and we're just after the best ones. Best physics in games. This list will detail some of the best, most realistic physics engine in game, or best ragdoll physics in games. Best player idle animations in games. Simple list, just the best animated idle animations from the protagonist in video games. Best rain effects in games. Now we're looking at the most realistic, immersive rain you've ever seen in a video game. That makes it look photorealistic in places. Best sound design in games. This list features some of the best sound design ever seen in video games, so this would probably include Condemned Criminal Origins and Battlefield Bad Company 2. Best soundtracks in games. Now this list will feature some of the most memorable and best soundtracks ever heard in video games. This list will probably be made sometime when we reach 1 million subscribers, so don't expect it coming out very soon at the moment. Best water effects in games. Now this list will feature the most immersive water effects when you're underwater swimming around. It really entice you that you are on the water, and when you get out of the water you're dripping wet. And that's basically the list. BFGs in games. Now this represents really big, humongous, overpowered weapons that are in video games. So just take the BFG for example on our Guns in Games list. That counts as one. Biggest bosses in games. Now, we're talking about here is giant, huge bosses, not just big enemies. We're talking about huge bosses in games that take up the entire screen. And this is what this list entails. Breaking the fourth wall in games. Now this list entices about a protagonist or game character that they know that they're in a video game and they do silly things as a joke. Building SCPs. Yes, believe it or not, in the SCP Foundation, not all the creatures are monsters. You also get buildings as well, which have paranormal abilities inside it and weird abnormalities. And this is that list to do with building SCPs. Celebrity appearances in games. Now what this means is a character appearing in a video game as themselves, not a character guest starring or voicing another character in the game. It has to be a character appearing in the game with their voice sometimes. So this would include Kevin Spacey from Call of Duty Advanced Warfighter. Top chainsaw weapons in games. Now this list will feature all the chainsaw weapons you can get in most video games and putting them all into one big video. Cities in games. The long anticipated Cities in Games will feature a whole host of cities from video games done in a sort of panoramic cinematographer style camera. So you won't see the player on the screen, you won't see the HUD on the screen, and we'll be going into detail about the history of the city and to how it is now. Clothing SCPs. Again, not all SCPs are monsters. In fact, there are clothing SCPs too, so this could be anything from wearing a hat to making you turn invisible, to wearing a ring and making me use telekinesis. Clothing SCPs is on this list. Collectibles in games. This list is going to be absolutely huge. We're not sure yet if we're going to create it, but this will feature all collectibles in games such as the snow globes, rings from Sonic, runner bag from Mirror's Edge. There's a lot of collectibles in games, and we don't know yet whether we're going to create it. If you really want us to create it, just let us know in the comments. Common enemies in games. Now this list has been redone quite a number of times in the past, because we started doing it in 2010. It was originally called the stereotypical enemies in games, and now common enemies in games is going to be all 3D animated, but it's going to show different styles of enemies. Originally we had 30, and now it's gone up to about 60, because we've included all sorts of stuff, including like snowmen, engineers, and animals, which we never had before. So this list will be pretty decent and pretty intriguing and different. Common levels in games. Now, based on the common enemies in games, common levels in games will feature the Heavy, pictured here, who will teleport to different common levels seen in many games and platformers. So, you know, the example, an alien level, a war level, an industrial level, pirate level, lava level, ice level, jungle level. You get the picture. So he goes to these different levels, and they have some sort of scenario play out. You may even see famous enemies or specific props or NPCs from different games appearing in this region of the level, and we'll have narration on top of it explaining what is so common about the level. But this common levels is going to be a pretty good one, actually, especially because it considers the Heavy, and everyone loves the Heavy from Team Fortress 2. Common things in FPS games. Now what this list entails is common things in every first-person shooter game, such as exploding barrels, indestructible trees, crawling through the air ducts. This is what that list will entail. We don't know yet whether it's going to be animated or it's just going to show clips from different games. We're not sure yet, but let us know in the comments what you think, whether it should be animated or it should be just clips from games. Cooking and dining games. Originally this was planned to be food in games, but we realised that we had way too many food on the list, and some of the games included dining and cooking, so we had to basically separate these two lists. So now we have cooking and dining. So this game will be like Fast Food Tycoon, or Disney's Kitchen, that sort of thing. Coolest car chases in games. This list features any cool car chase in video games, whether it be the police chasing you, or you're chasing after someone else, or an enemy chasing you in the car. Either way, this list will be pretty different. Coolest cheats in games. This list features some of the best and unique cheats in video games, such as the iconic God mode in Doom, to the CJ phone home cheat in GTA San Andreas. This list will be pretty cool. Coolest Easter eggs in games. What this means is a hidden feature the developers put in the game for you to find, so it could mean that you could play an arcade game while in the game, or an Easter egg such as showing special credits at the end of the game, so something along the lines of that. Coolest enemies in games. Has there ever been a point in a game where you're like, dude, check this enemy out, it's so cool, and you don't want to kill him because you want to show off just how cool he is and awesome, the way he moves, the way he fires? This is that list. There's only a fair few of enemies in games that are really considered cool, but this is the one we're going to show. Coolest glitches in games. Now what this entails is a glitch in the game where you can use it to exploit the game and to your advantage. So be it the rocket and sword launch glitch from Halo 2, the backwards long jump glitch from Super Mario 64, to even the boost cancel from Earth Defense Force 2025. Coolest levels in games. Now, have you ever played a game and you come across this one level that's really different, but you always keep going back to it to play it and play it again? This is this. Coolest levels is basically a level that really entices you to keep playing it, and it's completely unique and different from any other level in the game. Coolest menu interfaces in games. Has there really been any moments in games where you felt like the menu was really intriguing and different? Then this is that list. Coolest secrets in games. What we're after here is secrets deep embedded into the game that the developers left, which gives you a cool item. So this could be the stop and swap from Banjo-Kazooie to the Legacy of Bob in Viscera cleanup detail. Crimes committed by Super Mario. As we all know, Mario is doing really good in video games, and but you gotta admit, half the stuff he's done: trespassing, assault, identity theft, driving without a license, murder. This list is going to be done in source filmmaker, like an animation style in a courtroom. I don't know yet whether we have the rights to make this. You should comment below, see if you guys think we should do this or not. Dangerous, distracting driving habits. This list is going to be done in source filmmaker, another animation style top list. It's going to show us the dangers of driving with, you know, like phones and eating and listening to the music, even having pets and kids in the back of the car. It's just going to show the dangers of driving, but still doing it in an informative, fun way, and nothing too serious and nothing too violent. Darvale Creatures. Now, to those of you who don't know what Darvale is a city I created in 3ds Max as a fictional city. It's based off loads of different video games. I made it myself from scratch in 3ds Max. You can check out the city here in this video. It was a very old video I did called Top 3 Tats 3D Cities. It details Litex, Watershine and Darvale. But it will tell you everything you need to know about Darvale there. But this entire list, Darvale Creatures, features some of the weird bestiary creatures and insects that are found in the city of Darvale, and I'm sure it'd be really interesting top video. Destructible environments in games. So this list features destructible environments in games such as Battlefield Band Company 2, Defense Force 2025, Rainbow Six Siege, and even Destroy Humans. Destroying all these buildings and everything else in the environment also gains a natural advantage for you as the player. Disorienting levels in games. Now what this means is a level in a game that actually makes you really dizzy and gives you a headache. So either it could be the whole level turning upside down, or just making it feel really complicated and swaying from side to side, giving you motion sickness. Disturbing bosses in games. Now what we're talking about here is bosses that look disturbing or actually do disturbing things. Not much else to be said really. Disturbing enemies in games. Again, not much can be said about this list. We're talking about enemies that really kind of weird you out in a way and makes you feel kind of queasy about the whole ordeal. So it could be anything from the babies from Condemned 2 to the likes from Ocarina of Time. Disturbing levels in games. Yet again, more disturbing things. This time we're looking for levels in games that kind of make you feel really eased out and queasy, and that's pretty much it. Douches in Games. Now what we're seeing here is an antagonist or an NPC in the game that really bothers the player in some way. And sometimes you can't even kill the person that does this. So we put them on Douches in Games. Easy bosses in games. Now most first bosses in games are pretty simple, but there are times when you get further into the game and you come across a boss that looks very intimidating, and you find he's one of the easiest bosses in the games. And now, this is that list. Enemies that turned out from errors. Believe it or not, there are enemies in games that actually weren't supposed to be in the game, or didn't supposed to look like that in the game. Two examples is the Revenant from Doom 2 and the Creeper from Minecraft. Evil corporations in games. Pretty self-explanatory list. We're talking about a corporation in a game that does evil, malicious things on the public, on the citizens. It could be world domination, all sorts. Evil game characters, fueled by hatred, revenge, and supremacy. We're talking about antagonists or bosses in games that are really evil, far worse than some of the main antagonists in the games. Experiment creepypastas. Now we mentioned this list at the end of our top 60 non-gaming creepypastas. Don't want to spoil too much of it, but we will be featuring the Harbinger Experiment, Gateway to the Mind, Russian Sleep Experiment, and a few more. Fastest racing games. The fastest racing games are feature games where insane speed is the key, and it makes it really hard to see where the hell you're going on the race course. And there's quite a few games like this. We're going to root out and find the best and fastest ones. Flamethrowers in games. Again, self-explanatory. We're looking for unique and powerful flamethrowers in video games. Food and beverage SCPs. Yep, believe it or not, there are food and beverage SCPs in the SCP Foundation too. These include a vending machine which can disperse any liquid on the planet, a canteen that never runs out of water, and food that actually replenishes itself. Food in games. Now, originally, the top food in games was a top 100 list. We had so many food in games. The trouble was, we ended up separating them all. So cooking and dining games went into its own separate list, iconic food went into its own separate list, and this is now food in games. And what we're looking at here for food in games is games which has a whole substantial amount of food to eat in a video game. So these games would include stuff like Starbound, Bioshock 2, Minecraft, and let me just think of one more. Team Fortress 2, it's got a fair amount of food in it as well. Food you clearly don't want to eat in games. Now, I don't know about you, but there's been times when I've played video games and I've come across food that I really don't want to eat. One example of this was in Bioshock Infinite. I found a potato down a toilet and it gave me the option to eat it, which was really weird. FPS melee weapons in games. Now this list features first person melee weapons only in games. We're not including third person games, just first person melee weapons. And we're talking about games which include a whole variety of different melee weapons. So that can include Condemned, Dead Island, Dying Light, Team Fortress 2, and so on. Funniest player created characters in games. What this list entails is your own custom created character in games like Saints Row, Oblivion, Skyrim, where you can make the most stupidest looking character ever, and this is that list. We're just coming across some of the funniest player created characters in games. Funny Easter eggs in games. It's always nice for a game to always break up the sort of seriousness by throwing in some really funny Easter eggs. And what we're doing is trying to find all the funniest Easter eggs in many different games. Funny enemies in games. Now what we're counting here is enemies that are really funny in terms of their dialogue, their appearance, or just what they do in general. Funny glitches in games. Now again, here we're talking about an exploit in the game, but it's a really funny glitch and does something really stupid like making you fly 55,000 feet in the air, or just a weird animation glitch. Funny NPCs in games. Again, with this one, we're looking for funny NPCs that make you laugh, or they might do something really stupid, but this is the reason why they're on the list. Funny protagonists in games. Again, some protagonists know they're in a video game and make stupid comments, and generally try and be funny in their game, and that's the reason why we're making this list. Gadget SCPs. Yep, there's Gadget SCPs too, and these can range from a megaphone which can transmit whatever is said directly into the minds of all subjects when it's used, a router which can control all the human body, and even a device which allows a person to teleport from destination to destination. Game character appearance Easter eggs in games. Now in some games you may come across another game character or enemy or even an NPC that is from another video game. Now what we're trying to do is root out all of these video games which has all these game character appearance Easter eggs and put them into one list. Game dogs. Yeah, we're not entirely sure yet what to class this one as, because as you can tell there is protagonist dogs, there's NPC dogs, and there's also enemy dogs in video games. So we're not entirely sure yet what to class it as. It might have 3 separate lists, or it might all be put into one list, we're not sure yet. Game features that should be standard. Now, as you may remember, we did one a while back with Kid Icarus, game features that should be standard. It was a top 12, I believe. This one is going to be a top 20 because we included a lot more features that should be standard, including another one, which I don't know how we forgot, split screen co-op, and another one, New Game Plus. Well, there's just 2 of them. But this one will be even better because I was thinking of, instead of just having gameplay footage, I'll probably just animate it. The way I can really knuckle down and get to the point of what I'm trying to express myself in the video. So yeah. Game over screens in games. Now, some of the old arcade games had this feature where it would display a game over screen, but it would have a continue, and it would show some sort of animation going on, and you had a countdown whether to continue or not. And what we're ideally looking for is those sort of game over screens, and some of the other game over screens which show some sort of cutscene if you fail to beat the game. Game references in games. Now what this list entails is some sort of prop or an item that is referenced in another video game. So one of them is a crowbar, and that is referenced from Gordon Freeman in Half-Life 2 or Half-Life 1, whatever you want to call it. Another one could be the pickaxe from Minecraft, which could be referenced in another video game. So this is basically what this list entails. It's references from one game to another game. Game similarities to real life. What this means is some sort of building, prop, event, character that's based on real life similarities. I'll give you one example right now. That's one of the main things, even in the picture. On the left is the Mirror's Edge building called the Shard. On the right is London's building called the Shard. Background information on the game informs us that the in-game Shard of Mirror's Edge was constructed in 2012. The London Shard was started construction in 2012 and was completed. Mirror's Edge Shard is a large, expensive building occupied exclusively by those who can afford it, much like the real London Shard. And the Shard in-game can be seen in every single level of the game, same as the London Shard, can be seen almost anywhere in London. Games that should continue. What we're talking about here is a video game that did exceptionally well. It was praised really good, but then the developers didn't make another game after that. And as you can tell, one of the games was Time Splitters, Time Splitters Future Perfect. Straight after that, they didn't make any more games. Now, I don't know whether this is true or not, but apparently people have been saying Conker is going to be making another game, so I'm going to have to change the picture on that. But then there are thousands of other games that we think deserve to be made into another sequel, threequel, whatever. And this is that list. Games that take place in New York City. Yep, there is a fair few games that actually take place in New York City. Straight off the bat, you can think of Prototype and Crisis 2. But there are going to be lots more of these so-called games that appear in New York City, and we'll list them. Games to get drunk in. As of any game, I'm sure there are parts where you can get drunk in it. Bottles of booze and wine and brandy, whiskey, scotch. Yep, these are the games we're going to cover. We're going to show off all the different effects that happens when you get drunk too. Grenade launchers in games. Pretty self-explanatory, not much I can say about it. Grenades in games. Now there's been a whole host of different grenades in loads of different video games, and what we're after is the ones that are the most unique, the most different, the most powerful, and then probably the strangest too. Of a grenade that slows down time, a grenade that takes out every single enemy on the screen. We also might need your guys' help because we're really discussing whether the Serious Bomb from Serious Sam would be classed as grenade, or will the Bomb Chew from Zelda Ocarina of Time be classed as a grenade? Let me know in your comments. Guilty game pleasures. Now there are moments in games where we chuckle to ourselves darkly and laugh under our breath at some malicious thing that we've just done to someone or something. Now this is these moments. Handguns in games. Now this could class between anything from pistols, revolvers, or even a sci-fi pistol. As long as it counts as a handgun or sidearm, then it's fine. Hard bosses in games. Now, the majority of hard bosses in games are usually in fighting games, but that's not always the case. You can get all sorts of difficult hard bosses, and in this list we're going to cover most of them. Top hardest NES games. Now originally we did one called Top 75 hardest NES games. There's a mismatch of just broken games, and so this time we're going to redo it. This time we're going to prove our points now as to why the game's difficult, and not just say it's terrible because it's this and that. Haunted buildings in games. Now and then you're going to come across some haunted building in a game and it's going to be possessed by ghosts or other animalities. And this list we're going to try and cover them all. Horror AAA games. Now our old horror games was uploaded on some other people's channels and they really enjoyed it. The reason why we took it down was because it was a mixture of all sorts of horror games. It was AAA games, indie games and freeware horror indie games. So what this list entails, the horror AAA games, is just the game company that spent a lot of money making it, and this will be included like Fear, Condemned, Resident Evil, Forbidden Siren, Silent Hill, those sort of games. Horror indie games. Now, horror indie games are games that you pay money, but it's not made by a AAA developer. These are indie developers that made these games, and are not ones that you are free, you have to pay for them. So they're completely different to the freeware horror indie game list that we did. Hot female actresses in games. Now what this entails is not CGI of them, but actually real life videos of them. So this would include the Angel from Borderlands 2 and Commander Takara from Red Alert 3. Iconic food in games. Now, when we previously mentioned food in games as lots of different food in games, iconic food is mentioning one particular food item reference to that game. So that would be like the mushrooms from Super Mario Brothers, the sandwich from Team Fortress 2, the cake from Portal, the Wumpa fruit from Crash Bandicoot. Image creepypastas. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory. Talking about a creepypasta story centered around a photograph or an image. And we did cover one in the top 60 non-gaming creepypasta. It was called The Girl on the Photograph. We also covered one on the top 22 non-gaming creepypastas called Smile Dog. And we will be doing the same thing again, covering these same stories. Impressive AI behaviour in games. This list entails impressive AI behaviour from the computer. It could be down to the animation, it could be down to how they coded, but this is that list. Intelligent NPCs in games. These characters are the boffins, and they're usually the ones that help you out in your journey to beat the game. They can provide you with tips, and they can also provide you with devices and gadgets to help win a victory. Interactable TVs in games. Now, you mustn't get confused with just any old television in a video game that plays a station. This TV has to be interactable, meaning that you can go up to it, you can raise the volume and lower it, you can change the channel. That is what we're after. Internet memes of the 1990s. Now, as you do remember, we did have one a while back called Internet Memes, which had loads of different ones. We had like This is Sparta, Fine Chuck Norris, demotivational posters, epic fail, lolcats. What we plan on doing with this, if we have the rights to do it, is have different years. So starting with Internet Memes of the 1990s, we might make another one, Internet Memes of the 2000s, Internet Memes of 2001, Internet Memes of 2002, and so on. We don't know yet whether we can do it. As we said, we don't know if we have the rights to actually show these, so let us know in the comments if we are allowed to do these videos. Japanese creepypastas. Yep, this is a requested one that people have asked, and it is planned. We will be having help with our friend who lives in Japan at the moment. His name is Unrested. I could give you a link to his channel just here, so you might want to give that a try. He's going to be helping scripting and narrating the list for us, and he knows loads of Japanese legends and myths, and all the creepypastas too, so this is going to be a really good list. Levels in games you shouldn't play with acrophobia. Now, if you don't know what acrophobia means, it means a fear of heights. So any levels in games which has a really dramatic view of falling down, then this is going to be appearing on our list. Light SCPs. Yes, there are in fact light SCPs too. One of them is a small brass lamp which, once shone at any object, it starts to turn grey. Monotone, loses its colour. Another one is a neon sign which, if you pull it out of its socket from the power outlet, the entire building is impossible to enter and is indestructible. Litex Organisations. Again, if you're not familiar with what Litex is a city I created in 3ds Max. It's based on loads of different cities in real life and video games. I would recommend checking out the link just here. That would take you to the top 3 TATS 3D cities that I did, which explains in more detail what Litex actually is. It was number 2 on the list. But anyway, Litex Organisations, there's about 15 organisations in general. Each one has its own colour theme, and each one does its own business. Bright is a news station, DCA is a telecommunications agency, a Udico is a cleanliness agency, PSI, the Personal Security Intel, is the major government that rules over the entire city. And basically this list will detail more information and history on what they actually do. Litex Ubicore Units. Again, based in Litex City, Ubicore is one of the major corporations in the city. They are responsible for the policing and military. They basically treat all crimes like an iron fist, and is the reason why the city has very few crimes in it at all. Now, there's a lot of different units that Ubercore have. There actually was a video, which is still up now. I think it is, yes. I'll link you to it right here. This is for you people to vote what your favourite 5 Litex Ubercore units are. Whichever units have the most, we will write some history, backstory, animation for that said unit. But hopefully it should be good and unique and different. Machine SCPs. With machine SCPs, there is actually a fair few of them. One of them is a microwave oven in which anything is put inside it, it rapidly ages it. Another one is an X-ray machine, which allows any person that uses it to be cured of any diseases or virus infections, or even injuries. Medical healthcare SCPs. There's a wide variety of these particular healthcare and SCPs. One of them is a orange prescription bottle filled with grey tablets, and when taken it ages the person. Another one is some drugs which once taken can allow one person to see another person's dreams. Another one is a blue plastic toothbrush that when you clean your teeth with it, it wipes everything off grime, so your teeth is remarkably clean and there is no trace of any gum disease or any plaque or anything. Miniguns in Games. A pretty self-explanatory one. We're looking for the best miniguns that does an insane amount of damage, great stopping power. Yep, that's the list. Most difficult hard modes in games. Now, as you may remember, some of these modes are really goddamn difficult. We're talking about Nightmare on Doom, Expert on Left 4 Dead, Inferno on Earth Defense Force, and loads more. And this list is going to cover them all. Most interactable objects in first-person shooter games. Now, we're only talking about first-person shooter games, not third-person games, and we're talking about lots of different things where the player can interact with, so be it like buttons and elevators, slot machines, switches, panels, consoles, computers, TVs, that sort of thing. We're looking for games that have all those in. Movie references in games. Now, this one's pretty common in many different games. Jason's mask for Friday the 13th is usually in so many different games. You also get lots of different references to like Scarface, even ones from Aliens and Evil Dead. Mysterious NPCs in games. Now, you could be playing a game and you come across this mysterious character. They know everything about you, but you don't know anything about them. You don't know anything about their history, but they have these weird, strange powers that no one else has. They may talk very strangely, the way they're animated might be strange. Well, this is the list. Mysterious NPCs in games. Mythological creatures in the United States. Yes, we are doing this, the American version of it. We did the British Isles version, which received quite a lot of praise actually, people liked it. We actually are doing more mythological creatures. We're doing one in Japan, China, and even mythological creatures in the Harry Potter universe as well. There just isn't any flags for them yet, thumbnails I haven't made for them, but they are planned. Overpowered weapons and items in games. Now, you'll come across this often, whether you play a lot of games or not. You'll come across this one item or one weapon that is just so ridiculously OP that it kind of breaks the game, but in a good way. It doesn't break the game as in the whole game crashes. No, it breaks the game in a way that you become so OP, godlike, that you end up laughing over all the minions and stuff. And what this list will cover will be all these overpowered weapons and items in games. Overpriced items in games. There comes a time in a game where you come across a shop, go in there, and then realise that the items are ludicrously priced. And this is that list. Pet SCPs. Now, this list does have a cool list of pets in the SCP Foundation, or what they could be described as pets. Some of them include an origami crane that is able to fly around, just like a real crane. Other ones include iPods, which are strange alienized tear-shaped creatures with eyes in the middle of their bodies. Another one is the famous SCP-999, which is an orange translucent slime, and it comes in contact with people, acts very much like a dog, and it tries to make everyone happy. As soon as someone comes in contact with it, if they're feeling depressed, they instantly feel happy again. And so this list will really entice and talk about all the different pet SCPs that are available in the SCP Foundation. Practical SCPs. Now this list will show some SCPs which are benefit to us or any other person that uses it. These include an umbrella, which does not allow anything to fall on top of it once opened, a key, which can open any lock or digital mechanism, to even an apple tree, which allow it to clone anything. Protagonists who are mass genociders. In this list we are featuring protagonists who perform so many murders, it's absolutely ridiculous. For example, we include the Doom guy from Doom, Trevor Phillips from GTA 5, Point Man from Fear, and so on. And so this list will just show in all these mass genocides going on. Railguns in Games. Pretty simple, this one. It's a gun that fires a long beam, which does a lot of damage. Usually you have to reload after every shot. One example is the railgun from Quake 3. And there you go. Respawns in games. Now, in some games, they have a really unique respawn system. And there's only a fair few games that have this, but we want to root them out and we're going to put them all on one list for you. Ridiculous player deaths in games. Now, there's going to be a lot of these absolutely bizarre deaths in games, and one that comes to mind is the cuckoo death, when you start attacking cuckoos in Zelda Ocarina of Time and they all come after you, a whole herd of them, and it's just bonkers. Robot game characters. Again, we're unsure whether to class this as robot game characters or robot protagonists or robot NPCs in games, because there is so many game characters to choose from. But chances are we'll probably narrow it down so it's just NPCs or protagonists. Top rocket launchers in games. It's fairly self-explanatory really, just unique, powerful rocket launchers in video games, different from any other rocket launcher. That's it. RPG games. This is simple, it's going to be a top 50, and we're just going to be including all the RPG games that we think deserve to be on the list. Sad game moments. This list will contain major spoilers to some of the games that we are planning to cover in the list. It's also going to feature many cutscenes, real tearjerkers. Scariest places in Darvale. Again, Darvale is one of the cities that I created, as you know, is from the thing, and this list will detail some of the scariest locations in Darvale City. Scariest things in Zelda Majora's Mask. Now, if we've all played this game, we know that there's some terrifying things in this game, and we're about to cover them all. It's a top 10, I believe. Again, we don't know whether we have the rights to do this, but it's on hold for now. Scariest things in Zelda Ocarina of Time. Yep, the very first 3D of Zelda, and it was pretty damn terrifying, I can tell you that. In this, I believe it's a top 10, again, scariest Zelda things in Zelda Ocarina of Time. Well, I don't know if we have the rights to do it, but again, this video is on hold as well. Tell me what you think are the scariest things in Ocarina of Time. We'd like to know. Scary bosses in games. At one point at a time, we played a game and there is a terrifying, scary boss, and this list will detail those in more detail. Scary chases in games. This list features some really heart-pounding, terrifying moments of when you're getting chased by something. You know that if you screw up once, that's it, you're going to have to redo it all again. And this list is going to show these scary chases in more detail. Scary Easter eggs in Games 2. After the most successful original video of the scariest Easter eggs in games, a lot of people complained about NDL's voice being a bit too bassy, or that the effect was put on just for the video, or sometimes it felt a little bit too quiet. Now this was a problem on his end. It was completely out of the question. He had a roommate staying over and he had to be quiet because he was sleeping. But hopefully in Scary Easter Eggs 2, this is going to be rectified. We're going to have more narrators, we're going to have a lot more Easter eggs this time around. Scary enemies in games. This list features some truly terrifying enemies that have freaked out players for generations. What we're going to cover here is I believe it's a top 100 scary enemies across lots of different games. Now we did do one before, and I think that was a top 80, but this one we're going to pull out all the stops. Scary levels in games. Again, like the scary enemies, this will feature scary levels in games. Could be anything from spooky jump scares, dark atmosphere, very scary sounds. You'll find a fair few scary levels in games, and we're going to root them all out together in this list. Shotguns in games. Very simple and self-explanatory. We're looking for the best shotguns in video games. Signs which could prove your house is haunted. Originally this was going to be like a live action movie scene, but it would be incredibly hard to pull off, so I decided I would like to animate this in Source Filmmaker. Get right down to the point and get everything I really need to express the entries on the list. Silent game protagonists. What we're talking about here is a character that doesn't say a single word. I guess we can say characters that grunt and stuff, but I'm not sure whether the characters can actually engage in conversation. I mean, we have the Dovahkiin on there. Would that count as a silent game protagonist? Because you never hear him speak. You hear him shout words and magic and stuff, but would you count that as a silent game protagonist, or would you not count that as one? Answers below, please. Sniper rifles in games. Now what we're looking at here is very simple, is a powerful, iconic and unique sniper rifle that's different from other video games. Spider enemies in games. This list will feature all the sorts of creepy crawlies that you'll find in many video games. Not particularly a good list for people who suffer from arachnophobia. Strangest bosses in games. Now, there comes a point at one point of our games that we're going to come across one of the one's weirdest, strangest, wackiest boss we've ever seen. Hopefully we can cover them all in this list. Strangest Fish. Yes, an old favourite is going to come back right now. A lot of people were very upset that we didn't include the goblin shark and I think some other fish. Fear not, we will include those in this new Strangest Fish video. So yeah, enjoy that. Strangest NPCs in games. Well, we've all come across some of them before, but we're going to try and root out all the weirdest and the strangest NPCs we've ever found in video games. Swords in games. Now, our original Guns in Games didn't actually pan out the way we wanted it to. We thought it'd be really popular. Let's hope Swords in Games is popular too, because this is mainly swords, whereas Guns had all sorts of different set categories. Tactical nukes and strikes in games. Now, what this is referring to is games like Command & Conquer, Red Alert, or Worms Armageddon, where you can pinpoint a location and drop like some sort of strike or bomb on that destination. And that's what we're ideally looking for in this list. Tallest buildings in games. Fairly simple one. We're looking for them as giant towers, skyscrapers, soaring buildings right in the clouds. And that's pretty much it. Terrifying game rooms. Now the original one I did do, it got taken down because I felt like the amount of flame wars we got because of the mispronunciation of mannequin. Also, the footage was very bad quality because most of the content was not actually done by us. This new and improved Terrifying Game Rooms is all going to be created by us, and we're going to branch out and find as many different rooms as we can. But what is Terrifying Game Rooms? Terrifying Game Rooms is rooms in video games which really puts you on edge. There could be anything, there could be nothing in it, but then there could be something in it. But it's that sheer atmosphere and tension of not knowing what's in that room, and you feel like the more you spend in that room, the more terrified you'll get. Something bad may happen if you spend too long in that room, and that's what Terrifying Games is all about. Tests for the ultimate game character. Now what this video is going to be, I'm going to animate it. It's going to be a set of puzzles and challenges for each individual game character, and say I'd put like a sort of a key in a chest in one room surrounded by guards or enemies. Now each character has to go in there one at a time, and you would see exactly how they get that chest or get that key their own way, using their own different methods. And each character will have their own unique traits and unique abilities, and I think it would be a pretty interesting, cool idea. Things in games that somehow got through the radar. Now what we're talking about here is something like sexual jokes related to adult content in kids games, or even blood in an E-rated game. What it means by things that got through the radar, it means that it somehow escaped the testing process of the developers or the games testers. No one really saw these sexual jokes or these sort of things in the game. Flew right over their head. And that's what this list is all about. Things you need to survive in the wilderness. Now the script for this was done about 2 years ago, but we never actually got around to doing it because we didn't know really what to do with it. Whether to do it as a live action thing or to just animate it. But then we ended up with animating it instead. So at some point we're going to go ahead and make this one. So we'll be using the sniper as the main character in this list. Tool SCPs. Yep, there is some tool SCPs too. These include a fountain pen that anyone who uses it will be able to draw artistic drawings, even if they don't have any artistic skill. A primitive obsidian knife that if you use it to cut the flesh of someone else, you can take the appearance of that person. Toy SCPs. There are a handful of different toy SCPs around in the Foundation. These include a whole bunch of Lego that actually come to life and animate and move and do their own individual things, and even a Jack-in-the-Box that changes its appearance and facial features depending on what mood you're in. Transgender game characters. Yeah, I'm pretty self-explanatory, we're just looking for transgender game characters in video games. Transport SCPs. Yeah, believe it or not, there is sentient vehicles that actually have their own information and do their own things. These include a tank, which has its own information, including moving the turret, treads, and even a bus on the planet Mars. Troll developer moments in games. What this means is a power-up that the developer teases you with that you think you can get, but you can't. Or it could be a power-up over a trap, which the developer knows that they put it there just for you to fall in. Unexplained facts about Doom 3. There's a lot of unexplained things and things that weren't explained in Doom 3, and in this list we do plan on explaining or covering what those facts are. Unexplained facts about Mirror's Edge. Again, like the Doom 3 one, there's lots of unexplained things in Mirror's Edge that don't make sense or aren't quite put together or just unexplainable. So we'll try and figure out these facts in the Unexplained Facts about Mirror's Edge. Unexplained Photographs. Not to be confused with the one we did before called the Mysterious Photographs Revealed. Unexplained photographs we cannot explain how they are done. We cannot debunk them. We have no idea how it was achieved. Unique health mechanics in games. Now, this isn't just standard health mechanics. We're talking about a different way of getting health. Take for example in Far Cry 3, how you heal yourself in that. In Doom 3, again with the healing station. Even in Left 4 Dead, how you heal yourself. There's all different ways of being healed, and that's the list. Unique multiplayer victory and defeat scenes in games. In some multiplayer games, if you win, you end up getting a cutscene depicting your victory, and if you do get defeated online, you sometimes get a defeat cutscene. What we're after is the games which have these features. Unique playable tanks in games. Now what this is all about is special tanks that you can get into, and they all have different attributes and power and strength. And this is the list that we'll be talking about. Useless game peripherals. What we're talking about here is peripherals like the Virtual Boy and the Power Glove, and a whole host of other peripherals that just didn't work. Useless rewards in games. Now, you can do the most biggest, hardest quest, and you want a really good reward for all your effort, right? Nope, you end up getting a terrible reward, and in this list we plan on doing all the most useless rewards in games. Vehicle combat racing games. In this list we plan on covering vehicle combat racing games, so that would include stuff like Full Auto, Twisted Metal, and Interstate. Virus diseases in games. In this list we plan to cover all the different types of virus diseases that are prevalent in most of the games. So the green flu virus in Left 4 Dead, the Eve virus in Parasite Eve, to the Manhattan virus in Crysis 2. Virus SCPs. Yes, there is virus SCPs as well. One of the most common ones is SCP-008, which is the zombie plague. Ways the world could end. Again, this was a popular one back in the old day. We will be using film footage for this one, so we're not sure yet whether we can make it or not, but hopefully it'll be a really popular one. Weapon SCPs. Yes, there is actually SCPs which have been in the form of weapon. One of the weapons is a gun which is half alive. Western games. Fairly straightforward, we're just looking for the best Western games and the most iconic ones. Worst games, and yes, it has returned. Worst games. I know how popular the old one was, this one should be way better. Now what we're going to be doing in this one is not include indie games. Okay, not indie games, we'll be including every other game but indie games. So hopefully this is going to be one of those favourite ones that people love. Worst multiplayer netcodes in games. Now, we all come across this. No, it wasn't down to the actual other players, it's down to the actual server itself. Having some of the worst internet netcodes ever. We're going to expose them in this worst multiplayer netcode in games. Worst voice acting in games. This was a very popular one back in the old day. We are remaking it this time, but this time we're going to be removing the music, so it's just the voices. We're going to branch out a bit more and find some really bad ones, and not just include ones that were made for the sake of it.
You must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.
WTF Eastereggs in games. Yes, there comes a point in video games where we come across an Easter egg and we just say WTF, and this is that list. WTF endings in games. Whether it be a special ending or just a funny game in general, you're bound to get a few of these WTF endings, and we're going to cover them in the WTF endings in games. Zombie games. Self-explanatory, we're looking for games which have zombies in it. It could be action, survival, but we'll find them all and we cover it in the top zombie games. Well, and that's it. As you can tell, my voice is very quiet and tired. That's because I've been working on this for the past 17 hours and I haven't slept yet. But I'm glad you liked it, and like I said, if you really enjoyed it, comment below, tell me what your favourite list is, and if you want to help out, as you said, go through the list again, see which ones you want to help us out with, would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for that, and I will see you in the next top video.